Hey everyone, my name is Josh Wayne, and I'm making this video today because I was reading online a woman just shared an IBS support group. People who have had IBS before, how do you manage stomach issues, manage pain while you're traveling? How do you get on a plane? How do you get on boats? How do you go places where maybe there are no bathrooms? Perfect example. I still struggle mentally with this even after 14 years of being diagnosed. There's some things that have helped. I'm going to share that in this video with you, but just learn that this is a continual ride. This is a continual experience, and it takes time. So the first thing that I want to share is diaphragmatic breathing. So I'm gonna have to scoot back here, but a lot of us and a lot of people with IBS that I've worked with, when they take a deep breath in, their shoulders look like this. Whereas when you look at a baby, you look at children, and what I learned from my physical therapist, people that have healthful gut tend to breathe like this. You can see my hand here. Maybe from the side. So you'll see that the lower hand, when you breathe in, rises first, and then the top hand slowly rises. And then when you breathe out, this is what happens. So breathing in, abbreviated, breathing out. And the whole body, actually, when you breathe in, think about it, you're breathing air in, gets bigger. And when you breathe out, it gets smaller. But I believe, and this is just my hypothesis for myself, I know to be true, is that when I was growing up with IBS, with stomach pain, I was also gaining weight. I weighed 195 pounds, but even before that, I've always been the chubby child. And one of the things that we do when we take a photo is we often, suck in, right? We suck in when we take photos because we don't want to look pregnant, right? We don't want to look big, so we suck in our stomachs. But what happens when you take a big breath? You look pretty big, no matter who you are. You're filling the air here, but it also inflates the stomach, gets a little bigger. It gives you more space for your food to digest. So imagine just like massaging your stomach so it can actually digest that food inside of you. So I was actually a baseball player. I was throwing the ball and tore my labrum. I went to the physical therapist, and he was the one who asked me how I breathe. So that was the first time I even connected a deep breath to my body. He said it was all connected. The reason I hurt myself is that I was not taking a deep breath in. And that unlocked a tip of how to actually breathe deeply. So if you're like me and your shoulders rise, you can try to do this in a few different ways. The easiest way may be to lie down, but since we're standing up, I'm going to show you one way I do. So I take my hand, or maybe both hands, and I'll push in while breathing out. So you can try this now. Take both of your hands and push in while breathing out. Now breathe in and push your stomach against your hands. Now breathe out and push your hands into your stomach. Now breathe in, push your stomach against your hands. Breathe out. If that's hard for you, you can lay on your back and put a weight, put a book. Sometimes I've even done this with my partner on top of me, which is not easy, but it is really cool if you can master that. Maybe that's a few steps from now. But finding that breath, if you were to look at babies, you can find out that a lot of them, and I'm pretty sure, at least I was told, all of them breathe deeply with a big belly in and out. So if you're currently breathing with shallow breaths, that is going to be amazingly helpful for you. Another tip that has helped me with traveling is definitely planning ahead with my diet. Especially on long traveling trips, and not eating out, trying various new foods, trying different sauces. I'm really simplifying it and bringing it back. Noticing FODMAPs. I used a low FODMAP diet to understand my triggers. Things like avocados, orange sweet potatoes really trigger me. And if I'll have too much garlic, right? I can do green onions easy. I can do some garlic, but if someone puts 5 cloves of garlic into something, I'm going to have a more difficult time the next day. So it's not just whether you can eat a food or not, but it's the quantity of that food you're eating. If I wanted to have an easier time, I would eat a bunch of potatoes. I would cook some greens in a little bit of sesame oil with maybe not balsamic vinegar, but it does taste amazing. Sometimes that can even give me a little bit of an issue. Um, Maybe related to histamines more on that one. But having some cooked greens, having some potatoes, having rice, white rice would be the easiest one to digest, though it's not the best for optimal long-term health, which you eventually want to get to, but we're traveling right now. Um, so I would look for low FODMAP foods, use the Monash app. That's something I do. I don't really need it now because I've kind of memorized them for me and how I need to use them in my life. But you really want to familiarize yourself with foods that don't cause you pain so that before you travel, you make it the easiest day possible for you. And another tip that I'll share is I really enjoy this practice. I got this last week on somatic experiences and somatic healing. And one thing you can do to just drop into your body is pull on your ears a little bit and breathe in deeply while you're doing that. Notice how you feel. You can even cup your hands around your ears. See how you feel here. You can rub your hands together and put your palms in your eyes. You can put your hands in your chin like this. Do these for a little longer than I am. Just want to give you these. You can even put your hands on your throat and hum. And I found humming, especially if you can do the deep belly breath, is very healing, restorative. It sends vibrations through your body. And if you think about food being stuck in your stomach, these vibrations are what's going to help us to really digest and make use of it. There's a really good quote, it's not about what you eat, it's about what you digest. You can't predict the nutrients that are going to get into your body based solely on how you put them, what you put into your mouth. So each person moving, expending energy, needing calories, needing to work, needing to extract nutrients will help you get more out of that. Whereas if you're not expending your energy, you're not getting outside, you're not breathing, you're not moving, you're not going to digest the food in the same way. It won't nourish you as fully. So what else can we talk about with travel? Well, I feel amazing when I'm outside, and I don't always feel amazing when I'm inside. And I surely don't feel amazing when I'm in an hour-long line for, getting through the security in the Atlanta airport, right? So one thing that I would try to do is get outside as much as possible while I'm traveling. And Denver Airport actually recently added this really cool spot. I think it's like the B Gate or something like that, and wherever they travel to Atlanta from. And you can actually go outside there. It smells like jet fuel, which is an ideal. Um, Study shows that broccoli sprouts can help actually prevent those smelling these diesel fuels from harming your cells in your nose. Really crazy research out there. Um, but that's you're we're immersed in something where we are burning diesel fuels and inhaling it. We're naturally going to have the negative effects of travel on our body, right? So different types of travel. We may consider travel for walking versus driving, right? Like driving is this huge source of struggle. It was a huge source of struggle for me. There were times where I was going from Atlanta to Athens. It was an hour and a half drive, and I'd have to stop once or twice in whatever bathroom I could. And if there was bumper to bumper traffic on Spaghetti Junction, like holy crap, right? Like what if you're in pain and you need to get off the exit? And so that's a terrifying position, right? Because we evolved to be outside in nature, where if you need to go to the bathroom, you use the bathroom. Given the high level of our population, we don't want to have that happening, of course. Um, but, from an evolutionary standpoint, how we evolved, um, we didn't evolve to have to hold things when we need to go, right? And so that's something that's, we talk about in psychology, is that there's conditioning. There's things that aren't natural that we've been trained to do over and over again. And one of the trainings that has happened to me as a child that I've accepted as normal is just trying to go to the bathroom before I go, before I leave and get in the car or go anywhere, right? And so straining is not good. You know, straining to go to poop is like can create diverticuli and diverticulosis that can create these outpouchings from the pressure you're expanding. And so that is a continual struggle is like, well, do I have to go? Well, what should I try? Right? I know if you have IBS, you've, thought about these things at least for a little bit, right? So, that's something that we get to breathe through is what I often do. I put on really calming music as well. If you're driving and you listen to like a radio where someone's talking about, someone got murdered and yada yada, versus calming vibrations, whether that's hearing the insects around me or listening to water moving or listening to certain frequencies, flutes, instruments, music, feel a lot better, right? Like you can be in the same environment, the same house. And I think it's because the soundscape that we typically have in a city and in our house is mechanical, our bodies are not able to fully relax versus the cicada that's shaking its abdomen and, you know, resonating inside of me. So get outside into nature while you're traveling if you can. Sometimes there's stops along the way. Maybe you have a 7 hour layover and you were just going to stay in the airport. I mean, I do tend to stay in the airport, but try to get outside. See if there's a way to basically stay in the airport and get outside. Or, um, and we're trying our best, right? We have our best tools out there that we can try. The plants, really understanding which ones are going to cause you gas and cause you pain is extremely important, and that's what we work with people one-on-one to figure out because we all have different triggers. And one of the things about triggers that I find is really unique is that you can work with this and develop your microbiome. It's not a stationary thing, it changes over time, which is partially why I don't necessarily believe in as many like testing with microbiomes. I mean, it's a point in time, but you would want to continue to do it because if you take a test and you believe that that is your microbiome, I can basically guarantee you in a week your microbiome is going to shift. If you're changing any foods, you're outside in a different location, and so there is some useful information, especially if you can find that there's a ton of microbes that are associated with ill health, or you actually have, if you're already healthy, then you might find that you have healthy bacteria. But there's a really good quote is that Dr. Clapper shared. He said, I wouldn't necessarily do a test unless it will change my behavior. So if the test is going to change your behavior, then by all means, it's something to do. Um, but in a question of should I test myself for every little thing, you could continue to test and do thousands of dollars of tests. And sometimes tests have false positives. Sometimes they have false negatives. They're not always perfect. So anyways, that's like my little rant on testing. And coming back to movement, coming back to traveling, it's tough. It's tough. Even as somebody that I don't have painful gas, I don't have bloating. I have regular gas like most people. I don't have the urgency I used to have. I have much more control over timing. But still, going a place that's far from the bathroom and a place where it's illegal to use the bathroom outside or it's not advised because there's a million people there, um, that's still a difficult thing that humans, I don't think, are designed to have to live with, you know? And you see dogs that they have to pee, they just pee, right? And I know that humans, like if we had to pee, you have to hold it, you have to get on the road, you have to drive 30 minutes, and then you have to stop. And, I know, again, this is a condition of society, but I don't want you to blame yourself for this because I think that's a natural human thing. So let's see if I can sum up some of the things that have helped me travel and may help you. The first is learning how to take a deep breath. My mom would always tell me, take a deep breath, Josh, just calm down. And I would take a shallow breath. If you're truly taking a deep breath, your shoulders don't move and your belly gets bigger, right? So it's a very calming thing to do. You can also, hold yourself. You can hold yourself and calm yourself down. can do different practices, you can get outside, you can listen to music. These are all little things that you can do. You can also identify your triggers, identify foods that are going to be harder for you to digest, and while you should work on digesting new foods, kind of like working out and trying to get stronger, I think it's important to try new foods or foods that challenge you. But when I'm traveling, I don't do that. I go back to the basics, at least for, the day beforehand. I don't really eat out at restaurants very much. I tend to prepare my own food. I prepare snacks. Finding low FODMAP foods like kiwis are a good travel snack. Rice cakes may be tasty with a little bit of peanut butter on them. Bananas can be an easy snack as well. Um, I find restaurants that may have offerings, but it's really hard while traveling. So I usually almost always bring my own food, and you've got to pre-pack, you got to prepare. So if that sounded like a lot, it is. It's not easy. It took me over a decade to figure out this system, and like I said, I was diagnosed 14 years ago. So this is a continual journey. I don't have the constant pain, the constant bloating. I can eat healthy foods. I've lost 40 pounds. I feel so much better, but still traveling is probably one of the final frontiers for me. So you're not crazy if you're struggling with this, and I think a lot of people do. Maybe they don't say it, they don't talk about it. 1 in 5 or 1 in 3 people have IBS, so your fellow travelers are feeling this too. And if you got some benefits from this content, give it a like, give it a share it with a friend who may be struggling with this as well. And I hope you all have a great day. If you need that support, if you need one-on-one support and you want to get this under control, instead of in 6 to 12 years, maybe in 6 months, I've had clients I'm working with right now that were able to get out of pain in 2 weeks and get more clarity in 2 months, really start to get those habits formed that can support you long term, because it's not about short term pills or solutions. It's about feeling good for the rest of your life. Because I was diagnosed at, I guess, 13 years old, to 15 years old, and I knew that I would not survive struggling for the rest of my life. And I know there are people here struggling like I was. I want to help you. That's why I'm here sharing this message. So thank you for sharing your questions, and I'm hopeful that this was supportive for you.